Last month, I did a video talking about some of the weirdest guest characters to appear in fighting games. If you haven't checked that video out, please check it out, it really means a ton. And it's nice to see that a lot of other big YouTubers are talking about the same topic here because of Salvatore Ganacci. But I want to change it up and talk about the other side of the spectrum and discuss some of the coolest or best fitting guest characters in fighting games. So, let's talk about them.
Fight!
Good morning, afternoon, and evening everyone. Nick here and welcome back to the channel. This is going to be very similar to the video I did talking about weird guests. It's going to be structured pretty similarly, but instead I'm going to be talking about what made them perfect fits for these fighting games and why people love them so much. Also, before we get into the amazing guests, a lot of you had left comments in my last video talking about ones that I had missed. So I want to talk about some of the more interesting ones that I missed out and quickly address them here. First off, alongside Hillary Clinton and Michael Jackson in Ready to Rumble, a lot of you have pointed out that now DJ and former Laker Shaquille O'Neal, or Shaq, was another boxer you could play as in that game, so thanks for pointing that one out, and I completely forgot about that one. And speaking of basketball players, many of you had brought up LeBron showing up in the now defunct multiverses, and I did think about putting him in here on the original video. The reason I didn't is because it was more Space Jam 2 rather than real world LeBron, but because he is a real person and he's a basketball player, I can see why a lot of you guys wanted me to include him, so I thought I'd mention him at least here. Up next, talking about Soulcalibur 6, a fighting game that takes place hundreds of years ago, they included a futuristic chick from Nier Automata, a series that takes place in the far distant future, to be. I already had talked about Star Wars characters and how weird they were in the world of Soulcalibur, so I don't know why I didn't include this one originally, but thank you for pointing it out. I know a lot of people were saying that in terms of gameplay she's amazing, but in terms of fit it's very weird, and I agree with you there. And since the last video's release, we finally got a gameplay reveal trailer of Cristiano Ronaldo showing up in Fatal Fury, and we thought that was going to be the weirdest guest character showing up in that game, until a couple of weeks ago, we got the announcement of Salvatore Ganacci, a DJ. Raise your hand if you have any idea who he is prior to this gameplay trailer, because I sure as hell don't. Our second to last weird guest we're talking about is another real world person showing up in a Japanese exclusive Street Fighter game where you can play as former President of the United States, Barack Obama. Who would have thought that? Oh my god, that's just so weird, looking at the imagery of it and just looking at him, it's how was this a publicity stunt that they used for campaign charity? I'm how did this happen? This is so unique. And lastly, before we get into the awesome guest characters, yes, this is a real one that I did look up after getting a couple of comments about it. In Xenophage Bloodsport, you could play as Barney the dinosaur. Yes, this is real. I have imagery right here for you to take a look at. This is real. If you want to watch more videos about weird guest characters in fighting games, I'll pin two of them right here. I have Ketchup and Mustards and Maximilian Dudes. Go support their content. They're both great people. Now, let's talk about some awesome guest characters in our favorite fighting games, starting with my favorite franchise, Mortal Kombat.
Get over here!
In my opinion, the Mortal Kombat games do such an amazing job implementing these guest characters into their games, even the ones that I rank low. They do such a great job making them feel like they fit this universe, letting them use all of their powers and abilities to their disposal. And in Mortal Kombat X, we had so many great guest characters. First off, Jason Voorhees, who was implemented amazingly and was a perfect follow-up to MK9's Freddy Krueger, but the first one that we'll be talking about, and one of the best characters in Mortal Kombat and in general, goes to the Predator. This was the first guest announcement where I actually lost it when the Combat Pack trailer dropped. We are getting one of the coolest film characters in a Mortal Kombat game? How cool is that? In terms of violence and fitting a fighting game, NRS nailed his inclusion. The Predator has a large arsenal for any hunt, and the MKX variation system was a perfect way to implement different playstyles. Hishka-10 is his more plasma caster focused variation from the first movie, being able to juggle with the caster and do some sick cancels with them. His Hunter variation focuses more on setting traps and healing. Lastly, his Warrior variation focuses on rushing down and getting in quickly. Each of the variations heavily updating the character design to resemble multiple Predators. His brutalities are some of the best in the entire game, referencing iconic moments across the entire Predator series. Now, if I do have to be a bit nitpicky or nickpicky, my only complaints with this character are that his fatalities are pretty weak. Sure, they are awesome references to his movies, but I wish they were executed a little bit better. For all those, he's easily one of the most fun characters in MKX and one of my favorite MK guests. But we've got to look at our second awesome guest in Mortal Kombat, that being the delightfully devilish as hell, Spawn. Spawn from Image Comics has been requested to join MK for so long, all the way back in the MK9 days if I'm correct. With MK11 focusing more on gear customization and creating your own movesets, this perfectly fits Spawn. With the custom movesets, you could make your Spawn feel like he's General of Hell's army, utilizing dark magic, or you can utilize other Spawn stuff like summoning demons at will or using his chains that shoot out of his body. Lastly, you can even stick with Commando Spawn and use a hell of a bunch of guns, reminiscing on his US Marine days or trying to be comic accurate and not use too much of his magic. Unlike Soulcalibur 2, they gave him his cape to do a bunch of weird stuff. NRS made it feel like you're actually playing as Spawn instead of a dude with an axe. The best decision they made was having Keith David, well known for his role as Reverse Giraffe from Rick and Morty, come back to do the voice of the iconic character. Like, it just feels so complete. That's the cherry on top right there. It's great to know that the two most requested guest characters are the most fun guests that we've ever gotten in any Mortal Kombat game. Now, if we can get the third most heavily requested guest to finally appear, maybe we can finally get Ash Williams some justice. Like, come on, I will literally, like, sell my soul just to get him in the game. Come on, let's make the rights thing work out. Smashing! We're switching things up once again by looking at Super Smash Bros. Now, I'm going to be breaking this up into 3 segments, and that's going to be breaking down each of the titles, starting off first with the first Smash Bros. Game that I owned, that being Brawl. This was the first Smash game to include non-Nintendo characters, and in the last video I already talked about Solid Snake being the weird guest in this franchise, and the next one I want to talk about as one of the best fitting ones goes to the rival of Mario, Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic just feels like he perfectly fits Smash Bros. Having a long rivalry with Mario and being in a platform fighter, he just fits this world well. His speedy attributes are perfectly adapted, he has his homing dash from the adventure era games, and I love the fact that his final smash is him going super. I do like how this helped open up the gates to have more non-Nintendo platformers appear. My only complaint with Sonic the Hedgehog is that when they started introducing Echo Fighters in Ultimate, we didn't get the most obvious pick. How did we overlook Shadow the Hedgehog? How did we fumble this so badly? The next awesome guest character we'll be talking about comes from Smash Wii U and is one of my favorite sword fighters and one of my go-tos in this game, Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII. If they were going to add any non-Nintendo RPG character, they went with an amazing pick by choosing Cloud Strife. I love that he has so many of his iconic moves from the game that are just implemented well into Smash Bros. And I love how his final smash is Omni-Slash version 5. It was also great to see that this would also lead into having Sephiroth joining Smash Bros. In Ultimate. Oh, and speaking of Ultimate, let's get jiggy with our first of 2 guests from Ultimate, that being Banjo-Kazooie. It's fun to go full circle with this one. Banjo was planned to be in Smash Bros. 64, then Microsoft bought out Rare in 2002, and many thought that this would never happen as a result. Then come E3 2019, Banjo, an Xbox character, finally makes it into Smash Brothers. Though we hadn't had a new game since Nuts and Bolts, they made him feel up to date but classically maintaining his OG look on the 64. He runs around the stage like he traverses in the Banjo-Kazooie games and uses Kazooie for so many of his attacks, which were just perfect implementations from Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. Like, it's great to see that this became a reality, and I'm really hoping that this means we'll finally get a new Banjo-Kazooie game down the line. Now, the last guest we'll be talking about from Smash is the final character to join the game, that being Kingdom Hearts' Sora. I'm still baffled that this became a reality. You have a character owned by Disney and Square Enix, a character with so many legal loopholes, and they managed to not only get him in, but made him work so well. Now, honestly, I'm only familiar with Kingdom Hearts by playing a little bit of the first and the third one. Also, side note, yes, I was very lost the whole time. But man, how they made him feel floaty like the combat of Kingdom Hearts, all the summoning he does, and the fact all the costumes resemble the games is such an amazing treat. This character really feels like the perfect guest pick for Smash Brothers, and it's the perfect send-off if this series does end here. Now, this one's gonna be a little interesting. Instead of talking about just one guest character in one fighting game, we're going to be talking about how this character was perfectly implemented into two different fighting games, and that honor goes to Street Fighter's Akuma showing up in X-Men Children of the Atom and Tekken 7. First off, let's talk about Children of the Atom. First off, many of you are probably wondering why a non-X-Men character appeared in an X-Men fighting game. Well, here's a little history lesson for you. X-Men Children of the Atom was developed by Capcom after they gained the license to work on Marvel games since Marvel wasn't doing great financially at the time. And after doing some fun little secret input on the character select screen, you could play as Akuma, a character owned by Capcom, and since they were developing it, it was just kinda easy to convert some of the data over. Now sure, he'd still plays like Akuma like he does in the Street Fighter games, but what makes this so impactful is what this led to. Now, following this game's launch, Marvel and Capcom would collaborate again, and they would develop the Street Fighter vs. X-Men series, and then would eventually turn into what we know as today, Marvel vs. Capcom. So yeah, if this secret character inclusion didn't happen, we probably wouldn't have had this awesome and legendary fighting game franchise. So thank Akuma for that. But this wouldn't be the first time Akuma would invade a pop culture universe, as in 2017, Akuma would be playable and play a pivotal role in Tekken 7's story. Not only was he one of the most broken characters in the game, he was a Shodown style character who was implemented perfectly into a 3D fighter, even if he admittedly looks off in terms of art style, still having those Street Fighter proportions and all. Because of his inclusion, this is why I'm hoping we would get someone like Chun-Li or Juri Han to join the Tekken 8 roster down the line. Wishful thinking, I know, but we've seen it done so well with Akuma, why not do it again with another Street Fighter? Alright, and I think that covers it for Tekken guests, so let's move on to our next...
Oh, no. You're not done covering Tekken guests.
Mari Gamer Dude, is that you?
Yes, it is I.
Cool. How are you telepathically talking to me?
I knew you were about to skip over the best guest in Tekken. Bring it on! I'll destroy you all!
Oh, hell yeah. How could anyone forget about Geese Howard? Except for me right there. Heralding from the Fatal Fury and King of Fighters universe, Geese was Tekken 7's first DLC fighter to join the roster, and a bit of a hot take here, I prefer him over Akuma. For one, he fits the world of Tekken perfectly by being a bad dad. Jokes aside, he actually looks like a Tekken character, unlike the other three guests who had appeared in this game. I love his playstyle, which feels like it's a good adaptation from his King of Fighters games. That also explains why he's considered high tier, as he has a unique playstyle compared to the rest of the roster. This character also has a special spot for me, as it was the gateway for me to get into King of Fighters. So thank you, Geese. And thank you for the reminder there, Mari Gamer Dude. Best of luck to you at Combo Breaker. The Whack Pack and I will be cheering you on. Speaking of mentioning fighting games crossing over with other fighting games, let's look at another recent example coming from Street Fighter 6, collaborating with King of Fighters by adding Terry Bogard and Mai Shiranui into Season 2. Season 2 included Street Fighter's first third-party guest characters, Terry Bogard and Mai Shiranui. First off, they work so well in Street Fighter 6's art style, feeling like they just naturally fit within the universe. In terms of gameplay, they perfectly transitioned into Street Fighter. I also like how much both of these characters were treated. They aren't just exclusive to like arcade ladders, but they play a role within the World Tour mode, where you, as the player, can interact with Terry at the Pow Pow Cafe, or try your best to look Mai directly in the eyes at the Okigahara area, where she will also friend zone your avatar. Yeah, I guess that's the only downside to this collaboration. Mai's in the game, but at what cost? Your avatar can never be with her. You will never be with her. Sticking with more fighting game characters being guest characters, let's look at one from an underrated fighting game, Samurai Shodown from 2019. To wrap up this game's development, the final character we got was Baiken, the one-armed swordswoman from Guilty Gear. In terms of fit and gameplay, she's an amazing inclusion. Like, she already looks like a Sam Show character. Hell, I guarantee if you never knew that she was from Guilty Gear or had no idea what Guilty Gear was, you thought she would have been an original character for this game. Now, I honestly don't know a whole lot about the Guilty Gear series, but from what I've seen, it looks like they faithfully adapted her into Samurai Shodown, including some of her cool special moves, while making her gameplay fit Sam Show as well. A great inclusion, and one that I feel is pretty underrated. Not many people talk about this one, so I thought I'd at least highlight it a little bit. A quick one I wanted to mention here, coming from the very fun and underrated Gigabash, a fun, goofy game where you get to play as a bunch of like goofy, original kaiju monsters that are inspired by like the Toho films. And it only made sense for them to include some DLC, like original monsters, and maybe the potential license. And we lucked out by getting not only Godzilla characters, but Power Rangers and Ultraman characters, and some fun, awesome arena fighter. Like, how cool is that? Actually, that was the reason that got me interested in playing Gigabash, and having a bunch of friends come over and just have a fun evening just playing this goofy fighting game, having like Mecha Godzilla go up against like Ultraman and some of their own original monsters. Fun game, definitely check it out if you haven't before. Our third to final game that we'll be covering in this video comes from the goated fighter that definitely deserves some follow-up, Killer Instinct 2013. As mentioned in the last episode, Rash was a cool character, but he felt pretty out of place with him being a cartoon character. However, they managed to include an awesome character that fits this space warrior archetype, Halo's Arbiter. Talk about a huge improvement over Nicole being included in Dead or Alive 4. This time around, Arbiter feels like Arbiter, and he's loaded with some iconic weapons in his arsenal. He's got his energy sword that he uses primarily in all of his moves. He has plasma grenades to recapture people, his carbine as one of his base projectiles, and the ability to cloak and stab some peeps. Great reference to the death of the Prophet of Truth there. Also, something else that makes this character stand out in comparison to many of the guests in this video is that you can actually fight in a stage from Halo that seems to be more fitting for KI. Yeah, it's no wonder Arbiter is my favorite guest in Killer Instinct in a video I did forever ago. He's that good. Also, my favorite little detail that they did with him, his Ultra Combo music is literally a remix of the Halo theme. I just love that detail so much. It's been a while since I've talked about Injustice on this channel. Actually, the last time I did it, I think was All Supers Ranked, or a small little segment in All Costumes Ranked. But I think it's about time that we talk about one of the best fighting game guests that have ever appeared in an NRS game, and one of the best fitting ones ever, that being the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Injustice 2. Now sure, Hellboy is cool and all, but his execution kinda fell flat for me. But the Ninja Turtles went the extra mile by having every single one playable. Now sure, they have very similar movesets, but their special moves, interaction, and gear help them stand out as wonderfully executed guest characters. There's also a reason these guys ranked so high on my original MK and Injustice guests ranked forever ago. They are just that good. Also, one last thing, their super move. A solid 10 out of 10, I can't stress that enough. If you haven't watched all Injustice 2 super moves ranked, please go watch it so you know what I'm talking about.
Souls
The last set of guest characters comes from the franchise that's probably well known for its guest character inclusions, that being the Soulcalibur franchise, and I'll be talking about 3 of the most impactful ones that they have. And the first one we'll be looking at is probably one of the more underrated ones, that being Ezio Auditore in Soulcalibur 5. First off, having an Assassin's Creed character in a fighting game seemed like an interesting choice, but if your fighter is a weapon-based fighter set in the past, along with Ezio Trilogy being popular around this time, this was a no-brainer inclusion. Instead of being locked to just one weapon, Ezio uses his arsenal for a jack-of-trades style of gameplay, ranging from his regular sword to his crossbow, to even his hidden wrist gun and hidden blades. Honestly, the first time I ever saw him blocked by having his hidden blades come out, I thought that was just super funny. Like, they seriously did their homework and applied as much as they could with this character. Now, it is a little confusing why he's here, since the Assassin's Creed and Soulcalibur timelines are a few hundred years off, but we've also had Star Wars characters and friggin' 2B from Nier Automata, so I think complaining about eras is a little irrelevant right now. Also, a random fun fact about Ezio in this game, he's voiced by Roger Craig Smith, the current voice actor of Sonic the Hedgehog. I just wanted another reason to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog in this video. Our second to last guest character we'll be talking about comes from a franchise that I've yet to play, that being The Witcher with Geralt of Rivia in Soulcalibur 6. One highly requested character to join Soulcalibur, and damned they do a great job with him. His combat feels like how he fights in The Witcher, and I even like how some of the weird spells he can use are in his toolkit. In terms of the fit to the universe, he's another fantasy character that feels at home in Soulcalibur. So much so that if you had never heard of The Witcher somehow, you'd think he's just a brand new character to this universe. And similar to Geese Howard, this inclusion is what made me want to check out The Witcher games, so good on you guys. Our last and probably most iconic guest to appear in any fighting game goes to The Legend of Zelda's Link in Soulcalibur 2. Like, come on, you all saw this one coming, but I really feel like this one deserves it. Link being in Soulcalibur 2 was such a big deal at the time. Nintendo rarely ever lends their characters to anybody, and letting them give Link to a not-so-big fighting game series at the time was a huge risk. Link really feels like he fits this weapon-based fighter, being a fantasy character with a very unique moveset, with his Master Sword and Shield, along with some boomerangs and bombs he can use. Like, it's fun they let him include all of this stuff into his moveset. Hell, it's the reason that the GameCube version of Soulcalibur 2 outsold the PS2 and the Xbox versions combined. His inclusion really helped get this series into the public eye, and it was a real shame for the longest time that he was locked to just the GameCube version, and it was never re-released on the Wii U or the Switch. But I am honestly happy to hear that many players now have the opportunity to finally play this character thanks to the GameCube bundle for Switch 2. For how impactful this inclusion was to the Soulcalibur series, and how well it fits the universe, Link has to be the best fitting and one of the best character inclusions in all of fighting games. And so there you have my list of the most amazing or best fitting guest characters in fighting games. Is there anyone that I had missed, or is there someone who just doesn't deserve to be on this list? Let me know in the comment section down below, and let's have a fun discussion about it. As always with these videos, these are just my opinion. They're not the definitive list. So if you're gonna have a discussion with me, please let's not be jerks about it, okay? I do want to say thank you so much for your support on the weird guest characters video I did a few weeks ago. I just thought it would be a very interesting video to try and tackle and address and just talk about it. It's not a ranking that I usually do, and I wanted to try something a little different, and thank you for your support on that. It truly means a ton. And sorry for the delayed upload throughout the entire month. I just took a little bit of a break because I went on vacation, had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life with work, and just doing a lot of stuff with friends and family, so just need to step away for a minute, and I'm coming back. And be ready for another upload that's coming fairly soon, talking about just giving Mortal Kombat characters Pokemon typings. It's another goofy video that I've been thinking about doing for quite some time, so please stick around for that. It'll be a fun and goofy video. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more fighting game discussions, please don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and share for more. Your support truly means a ton, and I can't thank you enough. We are so close to 40,000 subscribers. We are still climbing, and let's get there. I'm really hoping we can get there by the end of spring. As always, thank you so much for your continuous support. My name is Nick, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Fight!